Good morning, everyone, and welcome to Inside Tennessee. I'm your moderator, John North. John Becker is away. It's our pleasure this morning to welcome back a familiar face, certainly to those of you who are in Knoxville. It's David Rausch. He is the director of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. He used to be the police chief here in Knoxville. Director, welcome.
Thank you. Great to be here with you.
Good to have you back. We're going to have a great conversation. Before we do that, let's go ahead and introduce our panelists. You will recognize them as well. Susan, it's good to see you. How are you?
I'm delighted to be here, John. Happy to have Ramsey on the team.
Always glad to have you. The hurricane's messing things up at the beach, so it's better for you to be here right now.
No question.
And Ramsey Cohen, Susan's a Republican. Ramsey, you're a Democrat.
Yep.
Thank you for coming in.
Yeah,
We appreciate
glad to be
it.
here. Yeah, thank you for having me.
All right, so let's talk a little bit about the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation and what's going on today in the state. As you all may know, it is a statewide law enforcement organization. They do a lot. Some of the big things that you all do are assisting agencies in terms of major crime investigations, and then also, unfortunately, it seems to me, Director, when we have situations where a law enforcement has to get involved and maybe fire their weapon, you all are always soon to follow. Would you mind just giving us kind of, from your perspective and from where you sit, sort of the status of Tennessee from the TBI's perspective?
Yeah, absolutely, John. So I'll start with just who we are, what we do. We're a resource agency. I express that with our team all the time. Our role is to provide needed resources, especially those communities that don't have the capabilities or the resources in their area. As you mentioned, we do get involved quite frequently in many cases. Usually, some of the most complex cases we get called into, and so our team does an amazing job in that space. Unfortunately, when officers do have to engage and injure or kill an individual that they're engaged with, we get called in to conduct those investigations. The purpose of those investigations for the TBI is to find the facts. We come in, get the facts, provide those facts to a district attorney who then makes the decision on what goes forward from there. That's a big piece of what we do. You know, in terms of other pieces that are important, we manage the crime labs for the state of Tennessee. Things are going much better there. You know, when we stepped in 7 years ago, a bit of a challenge with our crime labs, but we have been able to create efficiencies, great support from the administration, great support from the General Assembly, providing us the needed resources in order to really tackle the issue. We're getting closer to the goal that I had set for our organization, and that is to have turnaround times on all evidence to be 8 to 12 weeks. We're getting close. There are some areas we still have some challenges, but as we train people up in those spaces, we're seeing some improvements there. The other space, of course, is we collect all the crime data for the state of Tennessee. And so each year we release Crime in Tennessee, the report. We make it very clear, don't use this report to compare cities to cities, counties to counties. It is smart to compare a city to itself or a county to itself. What we did see this year from 24 data is a decrease in overall crime. We've seen a 1% decrease in crime against persons. We've seen a 14% decrease in crimes on property crimes, and then about a 4.5% decrease in crimes against society. So it's moving and trending in the right direction. There are a lot of reasons, I think, for that, and so we can certainly get into that if you choose, but it's very positive. There are more things to be done. One of the areas that we watch very closely is clearance rates. Right now, clearance rates for the state are 38%. That's a challenge. You know, what we know about crime is if a person knows that they're going to get caught, they're less likely to commit a crime. With clearance rates where they're at, there's some improvement clearly that needs to be done. And there are a number of areas that we can recommend where improvements can happen. Research has done a great job of identifying those areas that are impactful. You know, you always hear about police presence. More police on the streets certainly has impact on that certainty of being caught. In addition to that, there's technology that is now out there that we need to start embracing. Things like CCTV, LPRs, license plate readers. We're starting to dive deeper into DNA technology. There's a lot of technology out there that can assist us in that space as well. And so there are a lot of different pieces, different moving parts that we're engaged in. The drug epidemic obviously continues. We continue to see shifts in that. We're seeing less drugs come across the border, frankly, because of the tightening of the border. But what we're seeing is an increase in package deliveries with drugs. And so what's happening is the cartels have figured out how to deliver, and they're utilizing and they're exploiting our package delivery services.
That's like you're talking UPS and all of that?
UPS, FedEx, the United States Postal Service,
Wow.
They're all being
Interesting.
exploited.
Well, I looked at your website and just see kind of some of the things in your news.
Yes.
And there's utility co-op employee indicted, a Lewisburg city manager indicted, internet crimes against children. I mean, you all really do have a plethora of things. Walk me through that process. Does the DA call you? Do the sheriffs call you? Do all of the above call you? Or how are you called in and specific to each of those kinds of crimes?
Yeah, thanks, Susan. So we have two ways of getting cases. We have original jurisdiction in a number of areas. So things like drugs, we have original jurisdiction. Corruption, original jurisdiction. We have original jurisdiction in a number of other areas as well. Internet crimes against children. And so a lot of our cases come that way. The other way we get them is proffered through the district attorney. So the 32 district attorney generals in the state will call us and request us in on a case.
Interesting.
We're going to take a break. We're talking this Sunday morning, with David Rausch, who's the director of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. Much more to talk about. Don't go away. It's Inside Tennessee. Good morning. Thank you for being with us. We're talking to David Rausch, the director of the Tennessee Bureau of Investigation. First appointed in 2018, reappointed by Governor Lee in 2022, and you have a term,
yes,
and that's through, at this point, 2028. Is that right?
That's correct, through June of 2028.
What happens after that?
So then if I choose to continue, which at this point it appears I'm leaning in that direction, and then what I'll do is I'll reapply, go through the process. Hopefully the commission at that time will give me the opportunity to be one of the three names that is submitted to the governor, a new governor, by then,
right, yeah.
For the possibility of continuing my service.
That's Ramsey?
Yeah, so I have a question. It's a bit broader about law enforcement more generally, because you were a fantastic chief of police here in Knoxville, did a great job for our community. I'm curious what your thoughts are about the recent movement of National Guardsmen being used in D.C. We have Memphis in our community, in our state, that has a much higher crime rate than D.C., where crimes have gone down. Do you think that's the right kind of move, or what's your impression and thoughts on National Guard being used as what seems like, day-to-day beat cops?
Yeah, so I think there's a number of challenges there, right? I don't believe that, first of all, let me talk about Memphis. So Memphis has not just been left hands off. So there's been an operation going on in Memphis with federal, state, and local agencies now for about 3 to 6 months. Okay. We've been engaged with the U.S. Marshal Service, with the FBI, and our local partners. And we've been rounding up the worst of the worst in Memphis. So at this point, over 200 arrests, a lot of suspects that had warrants on them for homicides, and then other very serious crimes. And so Memphis hasn't been ignored. There's a lot of effort going on in Memphis right now. In terms of D.C., again, I think it certainly is the prerogative of the president to take the action that they're taking. D.C. is a different component than the rest of the country because of its status. And then, in terms of us sending troops, I think that's the call and the prerogative of the governor. And if the governor feels like that's an appropriate use of our forces, I'll support it.
Yeah. Director, this is sort of a good segue to something that I wanted to ask you anyway, and it is a perception maybe that some people may have that as a misperception, but you can certainly clarify. We have seen some law enforcement agencies in the state of Tennessee, THP doing a little bit, some of our sheriff's offices getting more involved in assisting immigration and customs enforcement. Does TBI have anything to do with current efforts since Trump took office to sort of, if you will, crack down on illegal immigrants?
Yeah, so our role in this is much different, right? THP certainly has a different role than we do as they're out there on the streets doing what the enforcement work that they do. And so as well as all of our local law enforcement, they have a different piece in this, and we do as well. Now, we have agents that are assigned to the Homeland Security task forces. We have a single task force, large task force in Nashville that we are assigned to, and we work closely with them. Our role is on the investigative piece of that, identifying individuals who have criminal nexus that are here illegally. And so we work closely in that space. We very much believe that those who are dangerous, regardless of what their status is, we want them off the streets. And so that's always been our stance with the Bureau, is we are all for going after those who have who are dangerous criminals. And so that's our engagement in the effort.
You mentioned that since the border has been closed, that we've seen some less trafficking in drugs. What is the main drug that you're seeing in Tennessee? I mean, it used to be meth. I don't know if it still is. Is it heroin, cocaine, fentanyl? So what's the status of our drug situation in Tennessee now?
Yeah, so meth is still king, unfortunately. Crystal meth is still very frequently the drug that shows up in our labs as evidence more than any other drug.
Is it made here in Tennessee by and large?
No, this is all imported, every bit of it. And it's still, while it has, again, all of it has slowed down, but it hasn't stopped. And so it's still making its way, as I mentioned. Parcel is a big piece of how it's getting here. And so we still have a large amount of crystal meth that comes from south of the border. But it's not coming through the traditional method that we were seeing before. And the volume isn't quite as much as it was. It leads, fentanyl continues to be a major issue and challenge. Now, the fentanyl, though, now it's interesting because, I've talked before about the connection between China, the cartels, and how fentanyl is delivered here. I think what we're seeing is we are seeing a decrease in the number of individuals that are dying as a result of overdose to fentanyl. We believe that is a result of the cartels recognizing that they were killing off
their own buyers.
Their buyers, their customers. And so we believe that they've gotten more judicious and frankly they've lessened the amount of fentanyl that they're putting in the mixtures, and I think that's what we're starting. And there are other things. I mean, there's been great work by coalitions to reduce, to push education, to push the reversal drugs. So much of that has helped as well. I don't want to discount their work.
I would assume, considering human beings, what they are, crafty and always sort of trying to alter the molecules, that requires your people to sort of be staying on top and maybe even getting constant training.
Yes, so our lab, they're amazing. The scientists we have in there do just God's work. I mean, it's just amazing the work that they do, and they're constantly looking for the different combinations. And I mean, we are already identified at least 52 different combinations of fentanyl that has shown up in our lab, and so they're constantly looking at and trying to determine the chemical makeup of all of these substances that come in, and it's difficult, but they are just that good. I'm really proud of the work that they do.
How many folks work in that lab? Just out of
so we
curiosity?
have about 210 scientists throughout the state.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
That's
amazing.
All different. That we have 8 different areas that they serve in. Not all of them do the same thing, but they are doing amazing work.
Wow.
We're talking to David Rausch, director of the TBI. Got to take another break, make a little money. Don't go anywhere. We'll be back. Talking a little bit more now with David Rausch, the TBI director. Ramsey Cohen.
Yeah, excellent. So First off, I was blown away by the number of scientists that we have working. 210 is much higher number than I would have guessed. And I know there's a lot of work that can be done of continuing DNA research and that sort of thing. I'm curious about the cartels and the packaging and that sort of thing. That is something totally foreign to me. What sort of technology steps, things can we do to cut into that? Because I'm going to go out on a limb and say a lot of those orders are probably not taking place in person, right? That's got to be something happening on the deep, shady parts of the internet, right?
It is. It's all dark web activity that's happening. We intercept some of that as best we can, but there are always, the criminal element is always trying to stay ahead. And so they do a good job there, frankly, and we're catching up many times. So a lot of that is happening that way. The orders are happening that way, and then the shipments happen. We have been able to intercept, but we're scratching the surface on interception, and so we continue to work in that space, trying to figure out better ways of identifying those packages before they get delivered.
Yeah, are there more technologies or things that you guys could get, should there be funding or access to them, that would help cut that down on that?
Absolutely. It's the limitations is resource, right? And so obviously there are some great technologies that exist that assist in screening packaging. I've always said that we do a great job of screening passengers. We should screen packages as well.
Oh yeah.
Good point.
Well, Ramsey mentioned DNA, and I think that's something everybody's always interested in. Certainly with cold cases, we're seeing a lot more of them solved now because of DNA. Right. What do you all do in that? You mentioned that you had a bill that you got passed but didn't get funded. Talk about that.
Yeah, so there was a bill passed in the last session that would allow for swabbing of all felony arrestees. Then what that would do is build our database even stronger and more robust. It also sends a clear message to those offenders that we now have some evidence that is solid on file. If you go out here and commit an offense, and you're going to leave DNA. It's Locart's principle that there's always an exchange at a scene, and so anyone there is exchanging their evidence, right? And so the DNA would be there, and so it would give us a quicker opportunity. It goes back to solving crime. Our solve rate will go up as a result of this, and so we're going to impress upon the administration and our legislatures to approve the funding to get this across the line. To me, I would tell you, I think this is the next step of making us safer as a state.
What's the ideal funding amount?
For that, do you swab current prisoners?
So there is some swabbing happening. So right now, we're allowed to swab certain felonies and serious misdemeanors, but it's a limit. It's very limited. If we were able to do, if I had my way, we would swab everyone because it's a biometric. Right.
Well, it makes so much sense.
It's no different than fingerprinting, and we get fingerprints pretty regularly. All of us do, and so it's a biometric. But what's happened is, and I have this conversation with my scientists, we have nuanced DNA to the point that people are scared of it, and it's not anything more. So I gave my personal DNA. I handed it out to every legislator and asked them, what are you going to do with it?
Yeah.
There's nothing. It's just a series of numbers. Right? It's all it is, and it identifies me as a male. That's it. And so all I need is to be able to connect those numbers to each other, and then I have a person that I can go talk. It just gives me a person of interest.
Totally.
It doesn't mean you've done anything.
Right.
But it gives me the opportunity to go and talk to you. Right, and then determine if either it does two things. It either confirms that you are the suspect, or it clears you. And that's the other piece that people don't understand is this would keep those improper arrests and where a person could be exonerated.
Yeah, sure.
Right,
yeah.
Because it's not them. And so it has a justice purpose, and I get very excited about it. I'm very passionate about it. I think it's a game changer, and if we could get over the fear, then I think people would recognize it's nothing different. And we use it right now. We're using it in missing children cases. We've had some great success at identifying unidentified human remains, and so there's just so much that can be done. And that's the key. You mentioned the cold cases we've solved. That's the way we've done it, is getting those DNA samples and then being able to find someone that is connected to be able to compare and resolve those cases for families.
A lot of closure.
Yeah, and I'm curious, so what would be a couple of questions. What would be the ideal funding amount to ensure you're getting 100% of all felony arrests? And then the other is, I assume, because I feel like I've read in the past of like incorrect DNA being used to, for those, false arrests and things, I assume that technology has grown and improved dramatically from where it was in its early days of DNA evidence. Could you say a little bit more about that?
DNA technology has vastly improved. As a matter of fact, we now have a thing called rapid DNA, which will give us an answer on a swab. So if we could put a swab in there, and it'll tell me in 90 minutes if there's a profile.
Wow.
Right? And so that gets us to an investigation quicker, right? We all know, frankly, and I don't want to give all the hints up, but we all know that those who commit heinous crimes, they're not in their minds, where they're thinking of the next step. And so if we can get a profile in 90 minutes and go talk to that individual, chances are we'll catch them with evidence from the crime scene on them. And so that's really a critical piece in this, right? Yeah. But you mentioned, the exoneration piece to DNA. That's a huge piece for us. We believe if we can do that on the front end, it really keeps us from going down the wrong paths, right, and wasting valuable resources. It puts us in the right direction, at least for a conversation. That I think is critical, and that's why I believe. And then the more DNA we have in the system, the more identification we have, and the more ability we have to exonerate as well as find those people we need to talk to.
Yeah.
In terms of the crime-solving techniques and tools that are available, really fascinating times. It's sort of like a new frontier, it seems like.
It is, and technology is moving quickly, and so I'm excited about the opportunities. And again, it's how do we get it across the line? You mentioned funding. The funding on that I think was around 3.1 million was the funding for this to get it across.
David Rausch, we appreciate the conversation and the edification.
Thank you.
We will see you again. We're going to take a break. You're watching Inside Tennessee, then we'll come back and talk a little politics. With a little bit of politics discussion Sunday morning. So we've got an election coming up. If you live in the city of Knoxville, only if you live in the city of Knoxville. Ramsey, it's been kind of not so great early turnout.
Yeah, voter turnout has not been super solid.
Not so good?
I think early voting just wrapped up, and I think there were around 3,000 total voters. I think a couple weeks ago we were told they expect around 10. I'd like to see
10%,
way more than, I'd like to see way more than 7,000 people turn out on election day. So just knock on wood and hope people turn out and vote.
Early on, when I think we were at the midpoint of early voting, I saw something that made me scratch my head, and that was that, so there are like 5 districts, I think, where we have races.
Correct.
And the one where the turnout was the best, where there were only 2 people on the ballot, and they were going to advance anyway.
Yeah, it's a halftime score.
What are you all thinking? Hello, South Knoxville, turn out.
Yeah.
I don't know. There might be a last-minute shove. We'll see. Okay, let's turn to the gubernatorial race, because even though it's 2025, we do have a governor's race that is starting to heat up.
It is.
At least the Republicans are making it heat up. We had a straw poll that kind of drew some interest. Susan, tell us about it.
Yeah, well, last week we talked about the Beacon poll that came out that showed Marsha Blackburn ahead 60-35, something like that, 60-19 actually, I think. And now we're having Lincoln Day dinners and picnics all summer, right? So Lawrence County, Middle Tennessee, did a straw poll, and John Rose won 60% to Marsha Blackburn's 35%. And of course, John Rose's campaign has disseminated that across the state.
Yeah, of course.
And we'll see a lot more of these straw polls. But they're interesting because they're secret ballot. And if they're run well, then you can indicate some things that are happening. So I would say it's catching up.
We'll see some more of that.
We will.
It will be very amusing, and the governor's race is actually not until next year, so lots to watch for. Susan, Ramsey, thank you. One final note as we close. We lost a dear friend, leader, mentor, Bill Williams, who basically is the epitome of what WBIR is. We just want to pay tribute to Bill and say God bless you, Bill Williams. We miss you. We will see you all next Sunday morning. Take care.